No one is thinking about you. That much. You walk into the room. It feels like everyone turns to look. You wonder if they noticed your shoes, your hair, that nervous breath you just took. You feel like you're being watched, judged, measured. But here's a quiet truth. Most people aren't thinking about you at all. Not in the way you imagine. They're not replaying that moment when your voice cracked. They're not remembering that awkward pause. Because they're doing exactly what you are, worrying about themselves. They're busy wondering how they look, what they just said, whether they belong. And suddenly something shifts. The spotlight you felt shining on you, it's not real. The judgment you feared, it's mostly in your own mind. And when that illusion fades, something beautiful happens. You become free. Free to just be. That is where the Stoic path begins. Not in impressing the world, but in releasing it. Not in performing for others, but in becoming grounded in yourself. A Stoic mindset for social anxiety. The Stoics lived long before social media, parties, or performance reviews. But they knew something timeless. They understood how deeply humans crave approval and how dangerous that craving can be. Epictetus said, "If someone speaks badly of you, live so that no one believes it." He didn't say, "Please everyone." He didn't say, "Never make a mistake." He said, "Live with virtue." Stay grounded. Let others think what they will, because that's the heart of Stoicism. You don't control other people, but you do control your mind. And your mind is where freedom lives, not freedom from discomfort, but freedom from the prison of overthinking, self-doubt, and fear. In this episode, we're going to walk together through 8 practical Stoic principles. Each one is a tool, simple, powerful, and deeply human. They're not about faking confidence. They're about building something real. So if you've ever stayed quiet when you wanted to speak, if you've ever left early just to avoid being noticed, if you've ever felt like you didn't belong, this isn't just a video, it's a reminder that you're not alone and that you already carry the strength you need. You just have to uncover it. One breath, one thought, one choice at a time. Let's begin. Part 1. Control what you can. So now that we've stepped past the illusion, that spotlight we imagined was on us, let's begin where the Stoics always begin, with what is truly within your control. Because in a world that spins with judgment, noise, and comparison, there is one quiet truth you must never forget. You are not powerless. You have more control than you think, just not in the places you've been taught to look. The village of whispering eyes. Let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, in a quiet village surrounded by tall forests and slow rivers, there lived a boy named Silas. Silas was kind, he was thoughtful, but he lived with a weight no one could see. Every day when he stepped outside, he imagined the eyes of the village on him, not with love, not with kindness, but with cold judgment. Was his tunic wrinkled? Did he speak too softly? Did the others find him odd? He became so afraid of their glances, their silences, their whispers, that he stopped showing up to the village well in the morning. He stopped speaking at the fire. He stopped laughing, until one day he met an old woman sitting alone by the path, a Stoic traveler who had seen many things. She listened to his fear, and then she said only this: "You cannot hold their eyes still, but you can steady your own." That night, Silas lay awake, turning her words over like stones in his hand. And for the first time in many moons, he understood something. He could not stop people from looking. He could not stop them from thinking, whispering, or assuming, but he could decide how he would carry himself. Your power lies within. This is the first truth of the Stoic path. Not a magical promise that people will always treat you kindly, not a spell that silences criticism, but a discipline, a calm, steady commitment to what you can control. Your posture, your tone of voice, your decision to enter the room with presence rather than fear. These things are yours. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us, others are not." And he meant it. He meant, you do not control the crowd's mood. You do not control whether they applaud or yawn or frown, but you do control the care you take to speak with truth. You do control your breaths. You do control your intent, and that, when practiced daily, is enough to give you peace in the midst of chaos. The choice to show up. You might say, "But what if they really are judging me?" And the Stoic would answer, "Let them. You are not responsible for the inner storms of others, only for the steadiness of your own." And when you walk into a room thinking, "I must be liked," you become a slave. But when you walk in thinking, "I will be kind, I will be clear, I will be myself," you become something far more powerful, free. You are the gatekeeper. Picture your mind as a house. At its door stands a gatekeeper, that is you. You decide what enters, what lingers, what you give power to. You can let in fear, or you can choose the voice of reason. The voice that says, "I am not here to impress. I am here to live with virtue. I cannot control what they see, but I can control what I bring." Return to the present. Every time you feel the eyes again, those imaginary gazes on your back, those voices whispering in your head, pause. Place your hand on your chest, take one breath, and ask yourself, is this mine to carry? If it's not, set it down. Walk forward gently, strongly. As Silas did when he returned to the well, with shoulders no longer hunched, not because the villagers had changed, but because he had. So remember this, you are not the world's opinion of you. You are the way you choose to walk through the world, and that is yours, completely, unshakably. Now, let's continue. Part 2. Accept the feeling, don't fight it. So now that you understand where your true power lies, within what you can control, there's something else we need to talk about, something quieter, closer, the feeling itself. Because even when you know the Stoic path, even when you stand tall, speak with care, and stay within your circle of control, the feeling still comes. The tightness in your chest, the warmth in your neck, the trembling in your hands. Anxiety, and here is where many stumble because they believe, "I shouldn't feel this. If I were stronger, this wouldn't be here." But the Stoics never asked you to be made of stone. They asked you to be honest, and they taught you this: emotion is not the enemy. It's just a signal. The boy with the trembling hands. There is a tale told in the mountains of a boy named Ivo who wished more than anything to become a speaker of wisdom, like the elders of his village. But every time he stood before the crowd, his hands trembled, his voice cracked, his breath scattered like leaves in the wind. The villagers whispered, some laughed. And Ivo began to believe he was cursed. That fear lived inside him like a sickness he couldn't shake, so he tried to fight it. He clenched his fists, he held his breath, he forced smiles. But the fear grew louder in the silence, until one winter's day, an old wanderer heard him practicing in the woods. She watched quietly and then said, "You think your fear is a beast to be slain." "But what if it's a guest?" Ivo blinked. "A guest?" She nodded. "Invite it to sit. Let it speak. It may only be trying to protect something inside you." And for the first time, Ivo didn't run. He didn't hide. He let the feeling stay. And when he stood to speak again, his voice still trembled, but his eyes no longer wavered. You are not your anxiety. This is the lesson. You are not weak because you feel fear. You are not broken because anxiety visits you. You are a human being, with a nervous system that responds, with a heart that cares, with a mind that sometimes mistakes discomfort for danger. The Stoics didn't tell you to erase your feelings. They told you to observe them without surrendering to them, to look your fear in the eye and say, "You may walk beside me, but you do not hold the reins." Let the feeling pass through. Imagine the feeling like a rainstorm. You don't curse the sky when it rains. You take shelter. You wait. You breathe. Feelings are like weather. They pass. They always pass. And when you stop clenching against the rain, when you let it wash over you without shame, you begin to see the ground beneath more clearly. Use the body to guide the mind. When the feeling is strong, let the body help. Breathe deep. Inhale slowly through your nose. Hold. Then exhale longer than you inhaled. Feel your feet on the ground. Place your hand on your chest. Let your body know, I am safe. I am here. I am not running anymore. The mind may wander. The fear may return, but the body remembers stillness. Speak gently to yourself. The next time the panic comes, whisper to yourself, "This is just a wave. I don't need to fix it. I just need to feel it." Because when you stop trying to fight or escape, when you simply allow the feeling to exist without making it mean something awful about you, it begins to soften, the volume lowers, and space opens up around it. You do not need to be fearless to be strong. You only need to feel and still move forward. From guest to guide. Just as Ivo learned to let his fears sit beside him, you too can learn that your emotions are not curses. They are reminders that you care, that you're growing, that you're human, and each time you allow the feeling without fleeing from it, you reclaim a little more of your power. You learn to carry the trembling hands with grace, to walk into the room with your fear as a quiet companion, not a jailer, to speak not because you feel calm, but because your words still matter. So let the feeling be, and then let's keep going. Part 3. Breathe and return to the present. And now that you've stopped resisting the feeling, now that you've welcomed it as a passing guest rather than a monster, you might ask, what do I do while it's here? How do I remain steady when the storm still rumbles inside me? The answer is simple, ancient, and yet often forgotten. You come back to the only moment that truly belongs to you. Now, the girl lost in the fog. There is an old tale from the northern woods of a young girl named Ellen who wandered too far from her village one autumn evening. The fog rolled in thick and low, and in it, every shadow seemed to move. Every tree felt like a figure watching her. Her mind imagined wolves, thieves, spirits. She began to run, faster, breath short, eyes wild, until she tripped over a root and fell hard to the forest floor. There she lay, trembling, alone in the mist, but something stopped her from rising, a sound. A single slow breath. It was her own. She hadn't noticed it before. But now, lying still, she followed it, one inhale, one exhale. She placed her hand on the ground. It was solid, cold, real. She listened deeper. The wind whispered softly through the trees. No growl, no cry, just wind. She stayed there, breathing, feeling, listening. And when the fog cleared, she was only a few steps from the road home. Return to what is real. When anxiety grips you, it pulls you out of the present. It shows you visions that aren't real. What if they laugh? What if I fail? What if I never belong? And yet none of these thoughts are happening. Not now. Not here. They are fog, and the breath. The breath is your anchor, your rope back to the ground beneath your feet. The practice of presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." So when your mind begins to spiral, don't fight the thoughts. Simply pause and breathe. Try this. Inhale slowly for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale gently for 6. Do this once. Then again and again. As you breathe, look around you. Name 5 things you can see, 3 things you can hear, 1 thing you can feel against your skin. This is not a trick. It's a return to the only place you can act. The only place where fear dissolves. Now, let the body guide the mind. The Stoics believed in training the mind, but they also understood the wisdom of the body. When your heart races, your thoughts chase it. But when you slow your body, the mind begins to follow. Your shoulders soften, your jaw loosens. And with each breath, you remind yourself, I am here, not in the past, not in the future. Just here. From fog to clarity. Like Ellen in the woods, we often panic when the fog of fear surrounds us. But if we stop running, if we simply breathe and place a hand on what is real, we begin to see clearly again. The fog was never the threat. It was our imagination running wild inside it. And clarity doesn't arrive by thinking more. It arrives by being still. Your breath is always with you. The most powerful truth of all is this: you carry this tool with you. Always. Before the meeting, during the silence, right after the awkward pause. It's there. You don't need a crowd to vanish, you just need one breath to come home. So when the world begins to spin, when your thoughts rush faster than your feet can follow, stop, close your eyes, and return. Not to the person you wish you were, not to the story in your head, but to the place your soul already lives. Right here, right now, this is your ground. And your breath is the key to unlock it. Let's keep going. Part 4. Imagine the worst. Then let it go. Now that you've returned to the present, now that your breath has brought you back to steadier ground, it's time to face the part we often try to avoid. What if the fear is true? What if the worst does happen? This is where many freeze, because in their mind, the unknown becomes monstrous. And anything that isn't certain becomes dangerous. But the Stoics had a different idea. They didn't run from what could go wrong. They looked at it, sat with it, walked beside it. And then they released it. The mirror of shadows. In a distant valley, wrapped in old stone and fog, there was a mirror that no one dared to look into. It was called the mirror of shadows. They said it showed not your reflection, but your greatest fear. And those who gazed into it would tremble, sometimes fall to their knees, struck by the weight of their worst imaginings. But one day, a young man named Thalan came to the village. He was quiet, thoughtful, and unlike the others, he was not afraid of fear itself. He had lived with it. Everywhere he went, he feared he'd be mocked, misunderstood, left alone. So he decided, let me look. Let me see this shadow. He stepped into the chamber where the mirror stood, and as his reflection melted, he saw it, himself alone. Rejected, ridiculed, his hands trembled. But he did not run. Instead, he whispered, and what then? If they mock me, what then? If I am alone, what then? And the mirror faded, not because the fear was gone, but because he had accepted its shape. The practice of premeditatio malorum. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of misfortunes, not to be negative, not to attract bad luck, but to prepare the heart so it would not break so easily. They believed that when you shine light on your fear, it shrinks. It loses its power when you look it in the eye and ask, what if it happens? What if I stumble? What if I am not liked? Then more importantly, you ask, will I survive? And the answer is almost always, yes. You will. Why this frees you? Because what we fear most is not the thing itself, it's the surprise. It's the shock of discomfort. But when you've already walked through the storm in your imagination, you know its shape, you know the path. And when the fear comes knocking, it no longer arrives as a stranger, it becomes something familiar, manageable. This is not pessimism, it is courage to say, yes, I may be judged, yes, I may be wrong, yes, I may feel small, but I will still speak. I will still show up. I will still live in accordance with what I believe. Release what you can't hold. Once you've faced the worst, once you've looked it in the eyes and survived it in your mind, there is one last step. Let it go, like leaves carried off by the river, like whispers dissolving into wind. Let the fear pass through you. Don't hold it tight. Don't rehearse it. Don't feed it. Breathe it out and step forward anyway. You are stronger than the storm. Thalon walked out of that chamber not fearless, but clear. He knew that fear would return, but it would never again have power over him. And so will you, because you've now seen the mirror too. You've imagined the worst and found yourself still standing, so go ahead, speak up. Show up, not because nothing can go wrong, but because even if it does, you'll be okay. And that's the quiet strength the Stoics lived by. Let's continue. Part 5. Help someone instead. Now that you've imagined the worst and learned to release its grip, you may notice something else beneath the surface. Even when the fear softens, you still feel exposed. Like the attention is always on you. But the Stoics offer another key, one that turns your gaze outward and changes everything. It's simple. When in doubt, stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about how you can serve someone else. The kindness at the crossroads. Long ago, in a town nestled at the crossing of trade routes, there lived a young woman named Mira. Mira was quiet. She avoided crowds, even the market on festival days. Her heart would pound, her voice would vanish. She feared saying the wrong thing or being noticed for the wrong reasons. But one afternoon, while walking through the square, she saw an old traveler struggling with his cart. His wheel had cracked, and his hands trembled with age. The crowd passed him by, too busy to care. Mira paused. She felt the familiar ache of fear rise in her throat. She hesitated, looked around. No one else moved. And then she stepped forward. She bent beside him, steadying the cart. They didn't speak much. She just helped him move it to the edge of the road where he could rest and repair it in peace. As she walked away, her heart was still racing, but something else had shifted. She wasn't thinking about how she looked. She wasn't overanalyzing her every word. She felt present, connected, grounded not in fear, but in purpose. The Stoic shift of attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." The Stoics believed we are not isolated beings, but part of a greater whole, and when we act in service, however small, we align ourselves with nature's design. Because anxiety turns us inward, it makes us loop through questions like, do they like me? Do I look okay? What if I fail? But when we focus on others, is she feeling left out? Can I help him feel welcome? Who here might need kindness? the tension begins to fade. We stop rehearsing our fears and start practicing presence. Connection over perfection. You don't need to be charismatic. You don't need a perfect sentence or a flawless smile. You just need to care. To offer your attention like a gift. To listen. To ask. To notice. Sometimes the most powerful moment in a room is when you shift your gaze, not toward the most impressive person, but toward the one who hasn't spoken, the one who, like you, may be carrying invisible nerves. And when you reach out, with a word, a glance, a question, you build a bridge. And sometimes, in building that bridge, you walk across it too. Small acts, big shifts. Helping someone doesn't have to be heroic. It can be as small as holding the door, remembering a name, letting someone speak first, asking, "How are you really doing today?" These acts require presence, not perfection, and they bring you out of the storm of self-focus, because where attention flows, emotion follows. And when your attention moves toward kindness, your fear has nowhere left to live. The quiet magic of service. Mira returned to the market the next week, then the week after. Not because her fear had vanished, but because she had something stronger now. She understood that helping others quiets the voice of fear, and you can do the same. When anxiety begins to whisper, don't retreat, reach out, because your strength isn't just found in silence and stillness. Sometimes it's found in the small, unseen ways you make the world softer for someone else. And in doing so, you make it softer for yourself, too. Let's keep going. Part 6. Prepare, then let go. Now that you've begun to shift your focus outward, to care for others instead of getting lost in yourself, there is still one more subtle trap to avoid. One that hides behind effort, behind ambition, behind the desire to get it right. It's the need to be perfect, to say the perfect thing, to make no mistakes, to be completely unshakable before you even begin. But the Stoics would remind you, excellence is in effort, not outcome. Your duty is to prepare, and then to release. The weaver of the temple cloth. In a quiet village nestled at the base of a mountain, there lived a weaver named Kale. Each year, he was chosen to craft the ceremonial cloth for the temple festival. It was an honor, but also a burden. He would spend weeks gathering the finest threads, dyeing them in soft shades of earth and sky. His loom was precise. His hands moved with grace. But when the day of the festival came near, Kale would feel his chest tighten. He'd begin to worry. What if it's not beautiful enough? What if the elders notice a flaw? One year, a single thread near the edge slipped. It was barely visible, but Kale saw it. He stayed up all night, unraveling the corner, trying to make it perfect. In the morning, he fell asleep at the loom and missed the festival. When he awoke, his wife placed a hand gently on his shoulder and said, "They would have remembered the beauty, but now they'll remember your absence." From that day forward, Kale still prepared with care. But when the weaving was done, he let it be done. What the Stoics teach us, the Stoics did not preach carelessness. They believed in discipline, in showing up, in doing your work with presence and virtue. But they also believed in release. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." That's the heart of this practice. You write your speech, you comb your hair, you rehearse your message, you bring your full self to the moment, and then you surrender the rest. Perfection is a prison. When you cling to the idea of perfection, you stop yourself from ever truly showing up. You edit yourself in real time. You watch others' faces for approval. You grip every word with tension, hoping it lands just right. And in doing so, you forget to live, you forget to connect, you forget to breathe. But when you accept that mistakes are part of the fabric, just like Kale's cloth, you give yourself permission to be human, to speak, to stumble, to smile anyway. What is enough? Here's the truth. No one teaches you in school. You can do everything right and still not be liked. You can prepare for hours and still feel nerves. You can deliver something powerful and still get silence in return. So you must learn to define success differently. Success is not applause. Success is not approval. Success is showing up with integrity. It's putting in the care beforehand and then walking away without self-judgment. Your role, not their reaction. Imagine your presence like a candle in the dark. It lights, it flickers. It offers warmth, but it does not beg the night to admire it. You do your part. You offer your light, and whether others see it, celebrate it, or pass by it, that is not yours to control. Letting go is a strength. Kale learned to stop weaving through the night, to let the cloth be enough. And the villagers, year after year, loved what he brought, not because it was flawless, but because it was real. Woven with care, offered without pride or fear, and you too can prepare your offering. Speak your truth. Stand in the room with your quiet confidence, then let it go. Let it be what it is. Let yourself be who you are. Enough. Part 7. Talk to yourself like a friend. And now that you've prepared with care, now that you've stepped into the moment and let go of the need for perfection, there is still one final voice you must face. Not the crowd, not the silence, but the voice within. Because long after the event ends, long after the room has emptied, you may find yourself replaying the moment, overthinking your words, criticizing your tone, calling yourself names no true friend would ever say. This is where the Stoics again meet us with gentleness. They remind us, your inner dialogue must be ruled by wisdom, not cruelty. The woodcarver and the whispering oak. There is an old tale of a man named Garin, a humble woodcarver who lived at the edge of a vast forest. He made simple things, chairs, walking sticks, bowls, and every piece he carved he did with patience and love. But Garin had a flaw. After every creation, he'd find faults. He would mutter to himself, "Not good enough. Look at that mark, the handle's uneven." One day, deep in the woods, he sat beneath an ancient oak to rest. The tree, said to be centuries old, whispered in the wind. And Garin, weary, confessed to it, "Why can't I ever feel proud? Why does the voice in my head always tear me down?" And the old tree, as the story goes, answered softly, "Would you speak to your apprentice the way you speak to yourself?" He paused. "No, never." Then came the final whisper, "Then you are still learning how to be your own teacher." The inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius spoke often of the inner citadel, a fortress within the soul where peace could live, untouched by chaos. But a fortress is not only made of stone, it is also built from words. From the way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with himself." He didn't mean blind confidence. He meant a quiet honesty. A voice that says, "That didn't go how I hoped, but I tried. I was nervous, but I showed up. I can grow without shame." Rewriting the script. So when you catch yourself saying, "I sounded stupid," stop. Ask, would I say that to someone I care about? If not, rewrite the line. Say instead, "I was nervous. That's okay. I'm learning." That's enough. This is not false praise. This is accurate, grounded kindness. The kind that allows growth without guilt. Your words become your world. The words you speak to yourself shape how you see everything. They influence whether you try again, whether you take up space, whether you allow yourself to fail forward. So speak like someone who sees your effort, who honors your courage, who knows that one awkward moment doesn't erase your worth. From critic to companion, Garin returned to his workshop changed. He still carved, he still saw the flaws, but now, when he finished a piece, he'd whisper, "It's not perfect, but it's mine." And slowly the voice in his mind softened. He became not just a craftsman of wood, but a craftsman of self-compassion. And so can you. You deserve gentle truth. Being a Stoic doesn't mean being hard on yourself. It means being honest, being committed to growth, but also being kind. You will stumble, you will say the wrong thing sometimes, you will wish for a redo. But you don't need to shame yourself to improve. You need to encourage yourself to continue. Talk like a friend. Keep going. Tonight, when the thoughts return, when you remember how your voice shook or how you hesitated in the middle of a sentence, talk to yourself like a friend would. Say, "That was hard. You were brave. You showed up. That matters." And let those words build your inner citadel, not of stone, but of strength wrapped in grace. Let's move forward. There's one more step. Part 8. Take one small action. And now that your inner voice has softened, now that you've begun to speak to yourself not as a harsh judge but as a steady friend, there's only one thing left to do. Act, not perfectly, not dramatically, just honestly, just once. Because courage doesn't live in theory, it lives in motion. The Stoics believed that philosophy was nothing without action. It's not about what you know, it's about what you do. The apprentice and the bell. In a village near the sea, there was a young apprentice named Bram. He worked in a tower where a great bell was rung each morning to call the town to life. But Bram was shy, too shy to speak in the square, too shy to lift his eyes when addressed. He feared his voice would crack, his words would fail, and that he'd be laughed away. Each morning the bellmaster would ask, "Would you like to ring it today?" And Bram would shake his head. "No, not yet." Until one morning the bellmaster did not arrive. He was ill, resting in his bed, and the town stood waiting. Bram stood beneath the rope, hands trembling, heart pounding. He could have walked away. No one expected him to step forward, but he looked at the sky. He took one breath, and with both hands, he pulled. The bell rang. It was uneven, a bit late, but it echoed down the stone streets, clear and proud. And for the first time, Bram did not shrink. He stood tall. Not because he had no fear, but because he acted anyway. Fear doesn't go first, you do. That's the secret. You don't wait for fear to vanish before you act. You act and fear begins to loosen. You don't wait to feel ready. You don't wait for a perfect moment. You create the moment. One small, imperfect, brave step at a time. Tiny actions, lasting change. So what does this look like for you? Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting, asking a question in class, smiling at a stranger, sending the message you've held back, walking into the room instead of hiding at the door. These may seem small, but they are not. They are symbolic. They are declarations. You are telling the world and yourself, I am not ruled by fear. The momentum of courage. The Stoics believed that each action is like a stone added to your foundation, and the more you act with courage, the more solid that foundation becomes. One word spoken leads to another. One step taken makes the next easier, and soon you are standing where you once trembled. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. But he never said, wait until you feel ready. He knew what we all come to learn, that right action must often lead the way. Do it scared. You may still feel nervous. You may still shake, your voice may quiver, but go anyway. Do it scared, do it imperfect, do it now. Because action is not the enemy of fear, it is its teacher, and with each step, fear learns it is not the master here. Bram rang the bell. No crowd applauded that morning. No ceremony followed. But Bram never forgot that moment. Not because it was flawless, but because it was his. Your moment too will come. Maybe it's today. Maybe it's small, but it matters. Don't wait for courage to carry you. Step forward and let it catch up. Let's walk together into the closing of this journey. You are no longer a prisoner of fear, so now you've walked the full path. Through doubt, through breath, through quiet strength. You've seen how the Stoics don't ask you to be fearless. They ask you to be faithful to yourself, to control what you can, to accept what you feel, to return to the present, to imagine the worst and still move forward, to shift your focus to others, to prepare without perfection, to speak kindly to yourself, and above all, to act. Because social anxiety isn't a curse, it's a sign that you care. It's a call to rise, not perfectly, but persistently. And now you have the tools, you've built your inner citadel, you've lit the lamp within. So the next time you walk into a room, don't look for approval, don't seek permission, just show up, grounded, calm, and clear. And remember, no one is thinking about you that much, but you can choose to think clearly, to breathe deeply, to live with quiet courage. If this journey spoke to you, if it helped you feel a little more seen, a little more steady, please take a moment to support the message. Like the video. Share it with someone who might need it. Subscribe to the Stoic Philosophy for more soul-deep wisdom and ancient truth you can actually use. And leave a comment below. What's one small action you're going to take today? Just one, that fear won't control. Let it begin now, not someday, now. Because you are not your fear, you are your action, and you are ready.